Yeah, before we dig into the book, which I do want to dig into, my understanding from the data, from seeing studies, is that CDOs, chief data officers, and I'm sure it's the same for all those kinds of related titles that you've had, like chief analytics officer and chief AI officer, the turnover in those roles
Insane.
is super fast. And
Insane.
could you speak to why that
Yeah.
happens?
Yeah. Um, I legitimately thought I was 100% flawed because I had had the position at Royal Caribbean. And even though things went into hypercare by the time I was done, there was still more work to do. And then the turnover. Then I went to Sony Music, COVID hit, turnover. Um, and then luckily, Gartner had finally published something on the average tenureship of a CDO, and it was 18 months. And I'm like, well, amazing. I'm beating the average at least. Like, woohoo. But like, my goal in life is never to beat the average.
Yeah.
My goal is to crush the average and like set the new benchmark. But I was like, okay, at least this turnover, now that more people are getting the CDO position, and I'm not like the only one on an island, the turnover is really fast. And there's sort of a few legs in that stool. The division of labor is never clearly articulated when you come in. You have a CIO, CTO, CAO, CDO, the other CDO, the chief digital officer. Like, it's whether your company has one or two or a mix. There is very little effort in putting and outlining the division of labor. Where does one role start and end, and where does the other one start and end? So, if I come on board as a chief data officer, and my job is to establish a data strategy to understand where we're weak, where we're inefficient, what desires are needed, what capabilities we need to build. Part of that, I call this the offensive and defensive playbook. The defensive playbook is, what's our data ecosystem? Do we even have an architecture that supports the business capabilities? Do we have enough engineers? Do we have enough analysts? Do we have enough scientists? Do we have a semantic layer that enables self-service analytics? What's our orchestration observability? Do we even have a catalog? So even if we put all this effort, people know where to have to go to with the data. But then a lot of it is around performance and making information available. Okay, well, how do I make it available? Well, this data is in this application. This data is in that application. If I don't own the systems, the applications, the platforms, the warehouses, the lake environments, I cannot guarantee the orchestration, the observability, the cataloging, the quality, and the way in which data is accessible. Everything I need as a foundation completely crumbles if I don't have ownership. But classically, who has ownership of that ecosystem? The CIO. And the CIO has nothing to do with me, but they're pissed my role even exists because more than likely the business has decided to take resources away, to take responsibility away. And it's a very, in my opinion, if I was a CIO, I would take it this way, like, I'm not doing a good enough job around data and analytics. And that's why we had to bring in another C suite who's just going to be maniacally focused on this. So there's a little bit of a subtle backhanded, like, we're not doing enough, so we're going to bring someone else in. So that division of labor between the CIO and CDO becomes really, really murky. And I've had really healthy relationships where the CIO has prioritized the things that I needed to do because we both look good. And I've had really unhealthy relationships where the CIO wants to be the hero and the only hero. And the business is already screaming at 100 things that they don't have. I'm like the last on the totem pole, right? So, how am I going to get my job if I have a dependency on that team and that team has completely deprioritized my work? So, it gets really frustrating. I think the second aspect, so that's division of labor. A lot of CDOs are brought on board to fix governance and quality. With all due respect, you can be in that position for 100 years, you'll never fix governance and quality. And so they don't see the value. And oftentimes, when I go in a position, I'm like, okay, we have two choices. I know where the issues are around governance. Either you can give me the funding and the focus to go and fix the root cause, which is a business process in system A and a business process in system B, but I need ownership and authority in fixing the business processes that are actually generating the issues. And I need priority in prioritizing the format and configuration within our SAP system, within our CDP system, because we're allowing for free form and it shouldn't be free form. It should follow this standardized format so that once we get the structured database or once we get the structured data, it has hygiene. Or the other option is you're just going to have to perpetually fund me with a bunch of pails to catch that leaky faucet of quality data, and I'm going to have to fix it reactively. So give me the focus and funding to go fix it proactively, or you're going to have to give me enough budget to continually react to it, but we'll never catch up. Um, so like that's the second is if I don't have ownership rights or I can't influence how business processes need to alter and change, that also goes by the wayside. And the business don't see things like governance and quality. And then I think the third is most CDO, I shouldn't say most. I have some of my peers who are really great at this and some of mine who are still learning because it's their first job in. You have to be front and center with the business. You have to be attached at the hip. You have to be there with all their digital marketing campaigns, martech tools. It has to matter to them for you to matter to the organization.